Hey, soul warriors, have you ever left a conversation feeling completely and utterly drained, as if your life force energy has been siphoned away? In today's world where energy is our most precious commodity, there are unseen forces at play, lurking in our daily interactions, just waiting to diminish our light. And these are not mythical creatures from folklore, but very real energy vampires in our midst. Let's identify these depleting energies and arm you with the knowledge to protect your vibrant energy. It's time to reclaim your power and shine brighter than ever before, because your light is meant to illuminate this world, not feed its shadows. Energy vampires is something I think all of us are so intimately aware of and connected with. I think the big miss, though, is we don't often identify it within ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't to point your finger like you're saying, oh, the energy vampire, this, and that. It's really me. Could be. But we all have parts of this. The energy vampire side of things, it's just something that basically feeds off of your life force, feels depleting to you. Could be a situation, a person, whatever. And we're usually really quick to identify that. But it's just the shadow side of everybody, including yourself. So we want to look at the different categories, which we'll go over in just a minute, and see which parts hit how you normally react and act, and which parts of all of those around you, so you can start making some decisions and start shifting things in your life.
This topic is just like, I don't know, it kind of touches and I don't want to say wrong way, but it kind of touches a certain way for me, because I've come across so many people that felt like that, and having to look at where I played a role in that,
Yeah.
kind of like,
Right.
because you like to think that you're always putting your best foot forward, and that you're doing all the right things and saying all the right things, but sometimes, man, that it sneaks up on you, and sometimes you do some shit you shouldn't be doing and saying some shit you shouldn't be saying, and then there it is, and then you're becoming the one. You're the one.
You're the energy vampire.
So yeah, taking a look at that was just kind of like, ooh, okay.
And again, it's just the shadow side, and that's a
Yeah.
part of all of us. So this isn't a shaming, blaming. I'm not saying you always have to take the finger and point it back at yourself, but you always do. You want to self-reflect, and you want to look at any interaction that leaves you feeling less than when you're done.
Yeah, because the more aware that you are of yourself and what you're doing and how you're acting is the best way to maneuver life in general. Because if you're not aware of, if you're not reading the room, if you
Right.
will, if you're not reading the room, then you're pretty much shortchanging yourself in different situations that you might put yourself in and things like that. So yeah, be some super self aware.
Right. And the more that you can start identifying these places where you might have a little bit of energy vampirism in
Yeah.
your being, then that's the more you get to know yourself, and the deeper you get to go, and the more that you get to anchor into unconditional love instead of being the bringer of lesser energies to people. And know that this usually stems from childhood, because people, they identify certain coping mechanisms, and that's how they get fed, or that's how they've learned to get energy from other people, how they've learned to get their needs met, because we all need energy. We all trade it, we let it out, we take it in. So this is a consistent exchange, like money, like bartering, like anything. This is a consistent exchange happening. Our breath in, our breath out, energy in, energy out. So let's go into a few types of them. So
Let's
maybe
do
you
that.
can see yourself, because as we were going through the list, we were like, oh, let's talk about, let's see, one of them is the victim. And I was like, oh, that's this person, that person. And then I'm naming the people in my world that fall into this. Like the victim is, it's always all the stuff happening around them, and it's never their responsibility at all whatsoever. They're trying so hard, but
It's out
everything's
here.
against them.
It's always out here.
Yeah.
Never in here. It's always out here. That's
So
the
if
victim.
you notice yourself being like, yeah, like this is going on, and you're talking really kind of low vibration, negative, or that stuck energy, and you're pointing at all the reasons, it's a form of this energy vampirism.
Yeah, and we, one of the things to be aware of is when you're consistently pointing the finger outward, you're missing the part of where you take responsibility for your part in the situation.
Right.
So always try to, when you're feeling like, I don't know, that victimhood, and you're, it's their fault, is blah blah blah's fault and all that, take a look in your part in it, because it's really important, because that's how we learn more and more about ourselves.
Exactly. All right. So here's another one. Very popular one. The drama queen.
Woohoo!
The
I
one that
know.
always wants to gossip. What'd you say?
I know a lot of those.
I do too. Less now than I did when I was younger. I've weeded out most of them that were
Yeah.
easy enough to weed out. It's just this constant looking for some big drama to hang their hat on. And you're like, what does that have to do with you? Does that really concern you? Like, I don't want to be sucked in the middle of this world when it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But that's how they're feeding off of energy, because when people are in the middle of some chaotic something, their energy is all out there, just easy pickings for somebody else. And also for somebody to come in and play the hero, or play the one that stirs the pot, or like whatever they need fed in the moment. Do I need to feel good about myself? I can go be the hero in this situation. Do I just need like to feel lots of energy around me because I have a lot inside and I don't want to look at it? So I'd rather be in the midst of all this. I'm going to stir the pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like all the different things. Like, so look at when you got deep into complaining, moving towards the chaos instead
Yeah.
of away from it, or instead of being the eye at the center of the storm.
I'm thinking of somebody in particular that I literally would watch them stir up something. It didn't matter what it was. Stir up something. I would call it the lighting a match effect.
Yes.
Literally, this person will light a match, throw it, sit back and watch everybody act up.
Just
And I'm
let
like-
it burn. And they were very
And I would sit
satisfied.
there like, wow, look at this in action. This person was absolutely infamous for doing that. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. The critic.
Critic.
I'm related to some of these. And this is a part where I can see myself too, because I grew up being very like, this is how you protect yourself and this is how you figure out what's supposed to be. Like, that's wrong. I can help fix that. And you're constantly pointing at all the things where other people are missing the mark on something, and you know better because you're aware. You can hang your hat on you're aware at that point, but you're not truly aware that you're sitting there pointing fingers around at everything that everyone else is doing that's wrong.
Right. There's a lot of judgment in
A lot of
being a
judgment in
critic.
it. But again, if you're grown up in this environment and you know that, you learn that, okay, that's normal. That's what you do. You don't know any different. So this is not, I don't remember if I already said this because I just want to hit it home because it's something that I remind myself a lot and remind our clients a lot, that this isn't shame. This isn't blame. This isn't a place of guilt. This just is something of like, awareness. I just observed this and now I can do something about it.
Yeah. I can't impress upon you enough how important awareness can be in our lives, in situations, in just being a good person to ourselves first,
Right.
and then outward. Because that's the most important. You can't give anything to anybody that you don't already possess. So that's important. And in reading some of the stuff about the critic, and the judgmental part was the one that hit me the most. Because for the longest time I didn't think I was judgmental. And then as I started learning more and more about myself, I realized just how judgmental I can be.
Yeah.
And I did, take all sorts of different actions to be able to be less judgmental and more curious. And that's when my curiosity came into play a lot from that point on, when I was like, I really shouldn't be judging this, or really shouldn't be, critiquing this in based upon my filters,
Right.
because that's the biggest thing, that we judge things based upon our own filters. So yeah, I got curious.
Yeah, and that's a great thing, is you start to get aware of your beliefs, your filters, of all the things that are like, putting on those glasses, rose-colored or otherwise, of what's going on around you. Which leads to the next one, is the martyr. Another one that hits home for me, where you're constantly self-sacrificing, or people, recovering martyr all the way. I was called a martyr in high school once by this very in-tuned person. Like I was 17, 18 years old, and he told me, stop playing the martyr. It's not serving you. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's giving me all these examples. And I'm like, you mean where I showed up for other people and I helped them? And like, those are my values. He's like, no, you're being a martyr. Yes, those are your values, but you're being a martyr. And at 17, I didn't get it. But it really, like, it stung. But at the same time, I knew that like he was in tuned and he knew something that I wasn't seeing yet. And it took me years later. I still remember to this day where we were walking down the hall in high school and everything, of him saying that to me. And so that's kind of played in the background for a long time. You all know when you have that person that says that thing that's kind of like a thorn in your side and you're like, but there's something to it. And you just keep circling back around it until you're like, aha. Okay, I see where I've taken self-sacrifice way too far, and I see where I've taken people-pleasing into a place like I'm a good person and I'm validated in their eyes because I did show up, and people don't usually show up for them. Where it was more for a dopamine hit than this is my value, so I'm doing that. I also used my values as an excuse. Like these are my values, so of course I'm going to help. Even if I'm depleted, they are somebody in need. And so therefore, yeah, like you said before, you take care of yourself so that you're in a good place, because if you don't have it within yourself, you can give, but you're just further depleting yourself. They're not depleting you at that point. Even if they're in victimhood, in full manipulator mode, trying to use you, just trying to get that dopamine hit off of you. When you're both doing that, you just continuously deplete each other and yourselves at the same time.
Yeah, I for me, I believe I played the martyr a lot but it was kind of disguised as protecting, because I was consistently protecting my siblings from my mother.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like that was my fucking job.
Exactly.
So that was my thing. So, and I did feel some serious resentment because I had to do that. So yeah, I played that role for many, many years with my siblings because I wanted to make sure that they were okay.
And that resentment, any feeling that you come up that doesn't feel good, that is your tell that this is a little more on the shadow side and a little bit farther away from your light side, which is being grounded in your morals. Yeah. And if you're playing between the two and it feels super hard, it's just the play between these different parts of yourself, and you getting more and more like aware. As we keep saying, self-awareness is like the key to all of this. Mm-hmm. The more you get aware and can move the needle over where it feels fulfilling when you do it, you'll know the difference. You'll totally, I mean, I can think of 10 examples where I showed up for somebody and I left and like, I didn't need thanks. I didn't need anything. I just felt good that I was there for them because I knew they needed it in that moment. And I had stuff in the well to give. Right. And other points where I was just like, I don't even want to go, but I feel like I have to, and I should, and I said I would. And that type of energy starting right out behind the 8 ball from the gate.
Right.
Let's do okay, wait. I don't want to not mention the manipulator, the controller, and the dependent. I was going to move on to story time, but I don't want to miss those.
And we can't skip the narcissist either.
Oh, or the narcissist. Yes, see all of these fabulous words that we all throw around every single day. Yeah. So, and some of these work in concert with each other, like the controller and the dependent. The controller controls the situation, and then they feel safe and they gather energy because they're controlling what's going on around them. And the dependent doesn't have to feel the stress of holding their own stuff anymore because they can easily hand it off to the controller, who's more than happy to take it. But then the dependent starts to get resentful and feel less powerful, because now this person has some hold over them, so then they might lash out at them. And it's this whole cyclical cycle. So understand that this stuff can also not just be lack of self-awareness, but it can be a mental health thing, like you have bipolar and you don't know that, and it's not in a managed state. Or you have an attachment disorder, some codependent type of relationship. So you've developed these roles to play this out. This is where sometimes therapy does play a really super big part. Sometimes you might need medication to help manage these things. And, those are awesome tools too to explore. I want to give you a quick message before we get back to this episode. Unlock the secrets of your soul for free with Soul Notes. Say goodbye to feeling stuck and hello to the validation of your alignment. These weekly prompts are filled with reminders, gentle nudges, and sometimes a kick in the ass, all with love from your soul. Don't just take our word for it. Try Soul Notes for yourself and see the difference it can make in your life. Trust us, your soul and you will thank you. Just go to soulnote.org. That's SOULNOTE.org. Now back to our podcast. All right, so I'm going to say story time. I had this person who said that they love to go to the sea, and I personally, that's one of my favorite places in the world. And the colors of the sea are the most vivid and vibrant, blues and greens. I'll put up some. Last year at this time, we were actually by the sea. We'll put up a video so you can see like the colors I'm talking about. And she would always bring a jar with her. And she would take some of the seawater with her. And she thought, it's beautiful blues and greens, and I'm going to take that home with me because I love it. And she'd put the thing on and she'd go home and she'd get there and it's just regular old seawater, like some murky looking water. And she's like, why don't I have that energy? This is the same exact thing with energy vampires. We see something beautiful. We want to take that energy with us. So we scoop it out of the thing, the vastness of what this is, thinking we're going to get that magic, that freedom of the sea within us, just to find out, it's lost its power like that because we're not on that vibration. We're not of that. And the sea is no less. The sea is still the beautiful blue and green, vibrant sea, even if you took that jar full home with you, because it is grounded in being the sea and being the flow and reflecting the light and absorbing the light to make these beautiful, brilliant colors. So you'll find people attracted to you like moths to a flame, trying to take a jar of whatever your special sauce is. But know that that doesn't have to deplete you. If you're good in you and you're good where you are, then you're still the sea. You're still free. You're still full. And people will leave feeling better having come in contact with you if you know how to keep that well filled. And if you know how not to allow it to be like, oh my God, they took all that from me and now I'm under somehow.
At any given point, because if we're the energy vampire, we're taking. We're coming in contact with one, they're taking from us. So it's a constant. But knowing all the components that makes us who we are is the most important thing, bringing us back to being self-aware. Okay, so know that in this beautiful, vast world, beautiful sea, the beautiful people, there are many components that makes us and everything of who we are in this world. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant design.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
So what are some tools that you can still maintain your feeling like the sea? Still like having the sand reflect the light through the water to become this brilliance of who we are. This could look like, we've heard this a million times, having healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries can be difficult. And this is when you tell yourself, I can do this difficult thing because I'm making myself a priority right now. I can say no because I know I don't have a full well. I can say no because I know they're just trying to get a hit off of me because of where they're sitting. And I don't want to partake in that. So this might look like leaving the job. This might look like asking to be transferred to a different department. This might look like sitting down and having a full conversation with your friend, your partner, whoever you're having this issue with, saying, this is how I'm feeling. And this is what I want to have an agreement with you about so that we can have a better container to function in. So this can look like a lot of different things. This just doesn't look like, I'm cutting you off. You're not in my life because you are an energy vampire and you are a narcissist. I see that a lot, particularly online. Like, I was in a relationship with a narcissist and a narcissist did this to me. It's been it's the pop culture term right now. And there are narcissists, absolutely. And you play a role in it as well. Usually you get into the victim mentality with it. And not to say that either one is the one that's right and the one that's wrong. It all just is, and it's what you do with it. So can you have a conversation? If it's a narcissist, it's probably not going to go very far, but you can try it, because right now you're practicing and you're putting into your subconscious that I'm not standing for that type of behavior. I'm not accepting that type of energy into my being. I'm not allowing my energy to go out to that type of person anymore. And I am stating it clearly, whether they take it in or not, which they most likely won't, because a lot of times they're deep in their lack of awareness, but maybe they're right on that tipping point, and you saying that is like, wow, that's the third person I've been in a relationship that said that to me, or that's the fifth friend that I thought was my friend, and all of a sudden they're backpedaling and they're not really responding like I want them to. This is like awareness on both sides.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, when you place boundaries in your life, I mean, think about it as self-care. Really, when you address it in that manner, I think it's less complicated and it feels less yucky to us.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to rock the boat most of the time. We don't want to set limitations for others or for ourselves. It is not a natural thing for us to do. Never mind that it's never taught to have self-care, or to think of yourself first, because God forbid if you think of yourself first versus your family, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That it is, there's always been that stigma of that if you think of yourself first, you're being selfish. You're absolutely not. You're taking care of yourself first, because if you're not okay inside, and you're not full inside, and you're not balanced inside, there is no way you can provide that to something or someone else. So think of boundaries as a form of self-care. For you, you're loving yourself enough to say, no, I'm important. I need to take care of me first. And I need this boundary here because something over here is making things really uncomfortable for me. Or it's shifting my energy and I don't like it. So I need it to be back in balance. Think of it that way, and I think it would be a lot easier. I know that when I started looking at it as a self-care thing, it became a lot easier because I needed to put some serious boundaries on my mom. And here's the one, she's my mom, and I have to go put boundaries on her.
Yeah.
A Puerto Rican woman who you're gonna go put boundaries on her. Those of you that know, you just don't do that. And doing that didn't make me feel good because I thought I was disrespecting. I thought I was all these other things, when in turn it was about me. It wasn't about her. It was about me taking care of me, because whatever she was going through and whatever she was trying to put me in the middle of, I needed to put a stop to it for my own well-being.
Yeah.
So think of boundaries as self-care.
And when you start getting the pushback, it's a really good sign you're onto something.
Absolutely.
It can be, and you will trip up. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, okay, fine, I'll just go see my mother, or I'll just go whatever, take care of my grandmother again because I'm supposed to, and this family member asked really nicely and they can't today, and this person needs X, Y, and Z. You're going to have times where you're going to let the boundaries go. And again, not to beat yourself up, but be like, okay, I went and I did that, and it was like amplified 100 times. Or I went and I did that and it was okay. Yeah. Maybe because the person was on their best behavior because they hadn't seen you in a while. And then you tried it again and it was like the same shit show where you had just come from, that you had originally put the boundaries on, to be like, okay, lesson learned. It gets easier the more you do it. And I've also found it gets easier when you have the proper supports in place. When I had to cut a tie with a business that I owned, at one point, I had this really awesome person in place that I didn't even know. It was an attorney, actually, I had been working with, who was just very personable and almost like a friend, who gave me good advice and said, okay, hang up the phone right now, call that other person, do it, and then call me right back. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't have time to think about it at that point. I got the advice. It's fresh in my head. I hung up. I know I have to call him back. So I called the other person. I said what I had to say, had the conversation I needed to have, got off the phone, called him back, and I'm like, whew, like, okay. And instead of spinning around by myself, getting my nervous system even more entangled and dysregulated from this whole thing and building it up to make it worse and worse and worse, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off real quick. I had the supports in place. That can be your therapist. That can be your best friend. If you need a coach, that's what we do. We are here for you to help support you so you get through it easier and it feels okay. And then you can recenter back into yourself more quickly. So it feels more rewarding that you just did that instead of like, oh my God, now what's the fallout going to be? What, like, it just keeps you grounded in who you are.
And each and every time the recovery time gets faster and faster
Yeah.
and faster, the more and more you put into it. It's just like anything. The more you do it, the better you get at it and the easier it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to apply these boundaries to yourself if you need to, if you're the energy vampire. And when you come across someone like that, again, you know what you need. You know what you can handle. You know what keeps you balanced. And if that energy is coming at you to take something from you, that's when you can say, it's okay to say, nope, not today.
Right. Yeah, and bubble your energy. Whatever you do to like have that protection come up,
Yeah.
do that. Boundaries can also look like just following your breath. Like, okay, I'm going in with this person. I know they tend to this side, so I know I get into that side of the energy vampire side of it from my perspective. So I'm going to breathe in when I see them just normally. I'm breathing in only the good stuff. And as I'm slowly exhaling anything that doesn't serve me. And energy that comes out of me, if it goes into that person, that's just fine because I'm really grounded and solid in who I am right now. And hopefully somewhere in there, that person senses that energy and maybe it shifts something in them and maybe it doesn't, but I'm okay because I'm breathing. Because breathing also regulates your nervous system. So it's an awesome tool to just use when you're
And
with
you
somebody.
can, we breathe without even thinking. So
Yeah.
just, but when you have an attention to it, just to, you don't have to be over the top.
Yep.
Where people are like, what the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
Or for me, it's like, I don't care. If I need to take a breath and I need to do it in a way that makes me okay, I'm going to do it wherever I am.
And that actually throws
okay.
people off sometime because they'll be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm re-regulating my nervous system because that just felt like a big suck of energy out of me. And I don't even know what's going on, but I'm just resetting that. I'm breathing in good stuff and I'm exhaling only bad stuff. And they'll be like, oh. And most people think whatever ever anybody says is about them. So they'll probably take that in and it might shift something.
Yeah.
Or it might not.
Exactly. But,
Doesn't
do
matter.
it. But do it. And it's okay because it comes right back to you and you taking care of you. Period.
Right. And one last tool we can leave you with is also, we always hear that the eyes are the windows of the soul. When you're speaking to somebody, if you know that you have this negative energy exchange with them, don't look them directly in the eyes. And I know that feels like rude and that feels anti what you're taught. And we're usually really big on looking somebody in the eyes and being present with them. But if you're in a situation where you have to be in a room with somebody, you don't have the choice to be elsewhere in that moment. You don't need to give them that information of what's going on with you, and you don't need to know what's going on with them because you just know how the exchange goes. So just look at their cheek, look at their chin, just the mouth. Like, you don't need to take in those cues of what people are doing with their eyes to try to manipulate you subconsciously or consciously. Yeah. Look somewhere else because the impact of energy exchange is a lot less if you're just hearing it and being in it. You add the eyes to it. Now you have like, oh, it's real because their eyes like squinted slightly and they did this and that. And I know when people are lying and manipulating when their body language does that, like, you're just bringing yourself into awareness by looking at their chin, looking at their chin. I'm looking at their chin. I'm seeing their hair is brown. Start naming things. That also helps keep you in the present moment and keeps your system regulated. I see their mouth moving. I hear what they're saying, but that's okay because I'm all right. I'm safe.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, as you're talking, I'm thinking, think of them as a dial. Okay, if you don't look, the eyes are full volume.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think of look at any other parts of their body, now you're decreasing the volume, decreasing it. So that, you, like you said, you're taking in, you're hearing it, but it's not affecting you in an energetic way that's going to, you know, unbalance you in any way.
Exactly. All right. So in the comments, comment what part you have. Like, I totally know I can
Yeah.
be a controller. I totally know I can be the martyr. What parts of those you saw yourself in? Because that's where the real power lies, is how you can shift you. All right. Protect yourself. Stay out of the situations when you can, and always look at yourself so you can get stronger. The more you are grounded in that unconditional love, the less energy vampires matter. They just are something around you like any other inanimate object.
All right. Be kind.
Peace.